and I'm really excited to talk to Ellyn Winters-Robinson today. Ellyn, really welcome to She Can. You're the president and founder of Ignition Communications. You're a dynamic marketer and PR executive. You're a best-selling author of Flat Please, which is a book you wrote during your cancer journey. You are a public speaker. You're the CEO of Lindell Project, and you set up AskEllyn. And now AskEllyn is a really revolutionary tool for women on their cancer journey. It's a first conversational AI for those with breast cancer. And she is empathetic, wise, supportive, non-medical, and speaks every language. And you set up a non-for-profit to bring this to women around the world. And I'm very grateful to you for getting in touch with me, which makes it so much easier for us to tell more women's stories. Ellyn, tell us a bit more about yourself and your journey.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. I believe that the universe sometimes has a design for you. And as I've been running my own communications firm and working in tech for 15, 16 years. And then in March of 2022, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was, as they always are, a diagnosis that comes from out of the blue. You're healthy, you're fine, and had no family history, and yet this is where I found myself. And so it was really my first time through the healthcare system in Canada. I other than having two babies, I'd really never had any issues with my health, and I kind of approached my diagnosis with a sense of knowledge is power, and so I started reading as much as I could and talking to other women that were on the journey so that I could advocate for myself and have better conversations with my doctors. And I realized as I was doing this that there's many women that don't have that ability to discern what's good information and it's not good information, or they're just so frightened that they just don't even want to go there, or they get to Google, and as we say in the cancer world, Google is not your friend because it returns back so much information and you end up going down all kinds of rabbit holes. So it really started with me writing my book. I started thumb typing it while I was in chemotherapy on my phone. And I just wanted to tell a simple story of a woman that was going through this journey, and the idea that anyone that read it, whether it really doesn't mean that it has to be a person with cancer. It could be a husband or a family member just trying to understand and better support that person.
Yeah.
But this simple tale, just taking them through the sort of the emotional ups and downs of what you're going through. And then in every chapter, I would provide additional resources to information that were sort of Ellyn curated, so good information, so that women didn't have to, do the work essentially. And so that's really where things started, and then it kind of exploded from there. But I'll stop right there and we can go on.
Ellyn, it's such an you're such a role model with that, because you're really creating such an important tool for other women so they don't have to go down all those rabbit holes. And it takes the fear out of it a little bit. And that, I think, is the hardest thing when you're diagnosed with an illness, that we're not doctors, so we don't really know what does that exactly mean. There are so many different cancers. So I think anyone out there doing something that is helpful is unbelievably important. Ellyn, so tell us a little bit more about your professional journey, and how did that help you on this journey where you're trying to really help women on their cancer journey?
Yeah, it's interesting because some people have said they think that I've been in training for this all my life. So, I'm a PR executive, I'm a storyteller. I work with journalists and placing stories. So I'm very used to sort of being that person behind the scenes that is coordinating and finding my clients opportunities to tell their stories. And I've got I know how to network, and I know how to approach people. And so, as things started to evolve and the book came out, and then we created AskEllyn, which is, a very interesting concept. I found myself, and then I formed this nonprofit. So now I was in a whole new world, and I was actually now pitching for myself and telling the stories for myself. And, there's some new things of course, fundraising for a nonprofit is something that I've never done before, but I think yeah, it's just interesting how all these things have come together, even my work in tech and the fact that, I mean, never in a million years did I think that I would be building out, tech, obviously with the support of an amazing technology team. I take no credit for that.
Yeah.
But to have some technology out there that is really, I think, breaking new ground is something that I just never thought that I would be doing, but here I am.
Ellyn, and so how is it telling your own story versus telling the story of, some techie company's news?
It's interesting because I work with a lot of tech startups, and you see a sense of, in founders, this just innate belief, this tenacity and grit, and just almost, and I use this in the kindest way, almost a zealotry, that they can see the world in a different way, and they are willing, and it allows them to push through all the downs because they can see so clearly what the vision is. And I now really innately understand that. I can see a world so clearly where every woman who is diagnosed with breast cancer, in fact, it's a bigger vision than that. It's any woman, any individual who is facing any kind of diagnosis should never walk alone. And
Yeah.
that's really the mission of the Lindell Project that I've created. It's a pretty ambitious goal, but I can see it very clearly.
Yeah, we love women who dream big because you are all showing others how to walk this road. Ellyn, so tell us what your main motivator is.
So it's really around AskEllyn. I mean, the book, we can only sell so many copies of a book, of course, and it's a very traditional form, and obviously it's available for people if they want to read it. But the ambition is really oriented around AskEllyn.ai. So just to give you a little bit of a story there. So that again was an accidental journey. I was on a call having nothing to do with anything in my cancer journey with a very talented team of technologists here in Canada. And I mentioned to them that I had written this book. And unbeknownst to me, they were working with artificial intelligence, and they wanted to do something around AI for good. And there's a lot of fear associated with AI, a lot of concerns around it, and what risks it might create, what threats it might create. So they wanted to prove to the world that this could be used in a really meaningful way. And so the one fellow, he's very inquisitive, and he started peppering me with questions about the fact that I had breast cancer, and I sent him my manuscript. Within 3 weeks, they had AskEllyn.ai, the initial version of it was up and running. And what they did was, in the AI world, AI is a mathematical algorithm, and it needs to learn off something, some set of data. And in the language world, they call it a large learning language model. So they used my book as that large learning language model. So she now understood my story and was able to answer questions based on the story that I told within my book. And then that's paired up with OpenAI and ChatGPT's understanding of the world. And it's really quite a powerful tool. And the way they designed her is just absolutely insane. She's very empathetic. She always will incorporate a little bit of my lived experience into that story, but she really can answer questions on anything. I had a long chat with her about going to Italy the other day, and 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 she's always supportive. And the other rule that we put in place was that she cannot be medical at all. So she's non-medical. So she not only helps patients, but clinicians, I'm actually a little pleasantly surprised by this. Doctors love her because they see a gap when patients are emotionally, distraught by their diagnosis. But a doctor can't be there at 2 o'clock in the morning.
No.
And they know that they're not able, with the constraints of the medical system, they're just not able to provide that kind of, nor do they even have that empathy because they've not had the lived experience of having a diagnosis like this. And so so as we bring her to market, that's really the ability now to scale. So I can now, instead of selling a few books to a few women, AskEllyn being free, literally millions of women around the world will be able to access her and speak to her in their own language. So that's really where my ambition lies.
which is such an amazing mission, Ellyn, and thank you for that. And I know that women from all over the world access this AI tool between 1 and 5 in the morning, right? So that seems to be when women lie awake, terrified of what the future holds, and need a
Yeah.
tool that they can speak to, 24/7. Ellyn, so
Yeah.
what do you think are the top qualities you have that make you so good in being a PR executive, but also now on this new journey with pushing out AskEllyn into the world?
I think, well, there's a few things. One is I think, having a good storytelling ability is, I'm a big believer in telling stories. That's how we communicate as human beings. And so understanding how a story is framed out and being vulnerable and willing to share my story. A lot of people are very, very private about a cancer diagnosis. And for me, that wasn't the way I wanted to roll. So that's one. I think the tenaciousness of, being a PR person and reaching out to media, you hear no a lot, it's sales in another form. And so, and running my own business for 15 years. So, learning to hear no, pushing through no, just really that, drive to make sure that the right people hear your story is another quality. And then just, I think the networking ability, being able to stitch together and connect other people,
Mm,
even if it's not going to serve me, but, being able to connect one person to another and create something greater from that, I think is something that I do quite well. So.
yeah. Ellyn, and so give us some top tips. Give us some tips for women who are on their breast cancer journey right now, or anyone for that matter, because there are men who
Yeah,
are
I think
diagnosed with this
yeah,
disease.
I think I want to break it down. So I want to actually speak first to women who have never encountered a cancer diagnosis and say, for heaven's sakes, know you're normal, be body aware, do your self exams, and get screening if it's available to you, because the earlier a cancer is caught, the better your chances are of survival. And that's, around the world, we need to advocate for ourselves as women. There's still a tremendous amount, unfortunately, a tremendous amount of paternalism and gaslighting that goes on in the healthcare world. And so women need to push through that. So that's for those women who, think it's never going to happen to them. I was that woman 2 years ago. It
Mm,
was never going to happen to me.
mm.
And so we need to know that 1 in 8 women in their lifetime will experience a diagnosis of breast cancer. And so, if not you, it's going to be someone you know. So we need to band together on that one. And then for those women that are on the breast cancer journey, you know that there's a tremendous community of individuals out there. We say it's the worst club in the world, but with the best members, and that there are women like me out there who are there to hold your hand, and we'll get you through this. It's not an easy journey, but it's actually one, weirdly, that I look back on with a tremendous amount of gratitude, because it does make you take stock of things in your life. And there's quite a number of people who experience some form of trauma, who they actually call it post-traumatic growth, who then go on to do really tremendous and meaningful things after a diagnosis. So.
Yeah, thank you for your beautiful and important words, Ellyn, and for saying that the health industry as a sector, really, women are still severely underfunded, under-researched, and that then
Yeah.
shows in all the areas that any illness that women can get.
Yeah.
Ellyn, so what are you most proud of to date?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm proud of me. Having a cancer diagnosis, the first 4 weeks I literally could not get off the floor. I was crippled with anxiety and fear, and you learn how very tough and resilient you are as a human being. There's not much I'm afraid of anymore. So yeah, so first and foremost, I'm proud of me, but I am very proud of what we have built, with AskEllyn, because as I say, I think that she is going to change the way healthcare is delivered. I'm absolutely certain of that. And I see the need, and I see women who experience her, who will write me and thank me for what we've built. And that's very meaningful. And as I say, I never did this to, make $1 million. I did this because this was important that we help other women.
Yeah.
And if I can do that, then I think I've left a very good legacy.
And we're very thankful for your high level of service, Ellyn. And tell us what your plans and goals are. What are the next years looking like?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I am fundraising for the Lindell project because there are costs, obviously operating costs associated with AskEllyn, and we want her always to be free to anyone who needs her. And so, I'm doing a lot of talking to foundations and family offices and large corporates. Just did a global webinar with GE Healthcare recently. So there's a lot of interest, but the fundraising work is, as we all know, very hard.
Yeah.
But and it does require some tenacity. So that's my first priority right now. And then second, if we can raise the funds, obviously bringing AskEllyn to the world and making sure that every woman has access to her is priority number one. But then the ambition would be to then grow this category of conversational care to have different versions of this. So ask Rob about lung cancer, or ask Marie around pancreatic cancer. And so the idea that, every diagnosis, not just cancer, because it could be for MS or Parkinson's or anything where people need a sense of community,
Yeah.
and are traumatized together and need that hand to hold. So that's a much longer term ambition, but
Yeah.
yeah, where
Thank
I
you
want to
for
go.
this amazingly big vision, Ellyn. So tell us what fundraising efforts you're running right now. How much do you have to raise by when? What is it for?
So my ambition would be to, and I've just actually received my first grant, so we're very excited about that.
Congrats.
My ambition would be to try and raise about $1 million in 2024 to really fuel our growth. And we're also turning up the dial on AskEllyn. So we've not done any marketing at all, just word of mouth, around her existence. And even so, we've had, 15,000 interactions. And as you mentioned, never a night that we haven't had someone, talk to her between 1 and 5 in the morning. And so, yeah, so we think $1 million would, allow us to, really fuel the next phase of development of AskEllyn. And that's not necessarily all going to come through donations. It might be a sponsorship. It might be, we may look at ad revenue on the site or something along those lines. We're building out a bunch more content for her. So there's different revenue sources. We're not just putting our hand out.
Yeah. Ellyn, so who are your role models? Who are the people who motivate and inspire you?
Oh, my dad. He was a very important person in my life, and I think I got a lot of my tenacity from him. And actually, the Lindell Project, Lindell was his first name, and so I named my foundation after him. So he was very much a role model in my life, a very intelligent, very kind man. So yeah, so number one would be my dad.
Thank you, Ellyn. Thank you so much for telling your story to us today. What a revolutionary, new, important venture you're pushing out into the world, and we can't wait to see more of it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for this opportunity.